The nature of Israel's aggression against the Palestinians is not limited to wars and irregular bombing campaigns or shelling for that matter. Unfortunately, it comes in many different shapes and forms. Just one of these forms of aggression is the vast and regular damage that the regime intentionally commits against the Palestinian agriculture. As the world is preoccupied with the coronavirus pandemic, Tel Aviv has wasted no opportunity in exploiting the crisis to keep up its warmongering. Welcome to Palestine Files. I'm your host, Wissam Bahrani, and on this episode we're going to focus on how Tel Aviv is destroying Palestinian farmland and other vital means of living.
Amid the coronavirus pandemic, Israeli forces have once again sprayed toxic herbicides on Palestinian farms in the besieged Gaza Strip. Over the years, Israeli planes have dropped toxic chemicals dozens of times. However, Palestinian farmers say this is costing them their crops and livelihoods. At the same time, the regime also opens its water dam to flood Palestinian farms. Tel Aviv stands accused of repeating this aggressive tactic on a regular basis. Palestinians complain that Tel Aviv floods their farms only after it makes sure they spend a vast amount of money on growing the crops that are finally ready to harvest. Palestinians also say Israel deliberately applies other measures to affect the impoverished besieged territories' food supply and push farmers away from their land.
This issue has been met with a strong reaction on social media. Here is just what some of you guys have posted, starting with David Kalayan, who says, the US is a signatory to a treaty banning ecological warfare. Israel, our #1 recipient of military aid, is not, and whether deliberately or through criminal negligence, they've been killing crops in Gaza while maintaining their economic blockade. Moving to Solveig Skogen, who says this is an evil action. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. And Khalid says, do we need more evidence that Israel is wiping out a whole population while the whole world, with its institutions, United Nations, Arab nations, and all of us are just watching them do this genocide? What United Nations? What Arab nations? We're talking about Palestine here, brother Khalid. The forgotten cause. Liz says, evil Israel is at it again. They'll be building on those fields next, and world leaders will be watching. Valid. African Patriot says, in addition to killing people, modern warfare targets infrastructure and now food crops. This is total destruction. Indeed, a very good point here. Common warfare. Add sanctions to that list as well. Common warfare. Silly says condemnation should be as loud as possible. You want to change that username, man? Silly there. Raises a valid point though. And we have one more here, who is by Pig Green, says, just look at the maps to see that the two-state solution is a figment of the imagination. Now, if not always. A very good point. So that's our social media segment, if you like. But the bigger question here is what the views of the Palestinians themselves are. And that's what we're going to find out right now, because we're going to take you there to Palestine, holy Palestine, occupied Palestine.
هذه الأرض دائما في أيام الشتاء، شايف؟ احنا بندعم من الله سبحانه وتعالى تشتي الدنيا. فلما الشتاء زاد فتحوا الحدود والسدود تبعت اليهود، فتحوها علينا احنا، شايف؟ فدمرت كل الزراعة الموجودة هنا عندنا، كل هيتا، كل القمح والشعير والفول والحمص، كله هذا خرب. كمان مرة فتحوها، شتت الدنيا، فتحوها علينا كمان مرة، شايف غرقت كمان مرة، ولغاية هذا اليوم لا قادرين نزرع، والموسم حيروح علينا الزراعة. يعني أنت بتعرف هلقة الشهر إحنا في شهر 4، عده خلص شهر 4 وإحنا ما زرعناش ولا حاجة. طلع زي ما أنت شايف الأرض اليوم.
اليهود يعني احنا المعاناه اللي بنعانيها المزارعين هان في المنطقه هذه من سنين، مش من اليوم السنه هذه، من سنين بتعمدوا انه يضربوا الاقتصاد الزراعي في قطاع غزه، لانه سنين طويله قبل السنه هذه رشوا الخضروات تاعتنا بالمبيدات الاعشاب ويقضوا على المحاصيل كلها تاعتنا. السنه هذه يعني في 5/1 تفاجأنا فتحوا السدود كلها، الارض هان صارت عليها متر، يعني غرقت الخضرة مزروعة بمحاصيل، ما تعرف المحاصيل الشتوية، الملفوف، الزهرة، البصل، التومة، القمح، الشعير.
يا عمي اليهود انت عارف، يعني امبارح بنطلع والطيارة بترش، رشت المبيدات، رشت يعني هذا، فهذا الدواء بيجي علينا بخرب خضرتنا. قبلها اللي هو السدود، فتحوا السدود علينا ومية هذا، يعني كان عندنا هنا مزروع باذنجان وفلفل ومش عارف وحمص وسلق وفول، وهذا كله هذا انغمر بالمياه في المناطق هذه كلها ليتها. يعني خسارة على يعني المزارع عندنا هنا مش عارف كيف بده يعيش، مش عارف كيف بده يعيش. هي احنا واولادنا وبناتنا وكلهم نشتغل في الارض، هالقيت بنطلع فيها. يعني لاحظ في الموسم الشتاء كله راح، وهي موسم الصيف كمان، هي موسم الصيف كمان. انت عارف هيك انت واقف فين وشايف طينه برضه. وقتاش هذا بدنا نزرع؟ يعني موسم الصيف افتكر كمان حيروح منا.
بدهم يرحلونا بس احنا بنرحلش، ملكنا وملك اجدادنا وملك ابائنا، وبنضل صامدين. بجرفوا البير بنعمل غيره، بجرفوا الارض ثاني يوم بتبقى مصلحه ومزروعه.
يستفيدوا بخربوا، بيضربوا الاقتصاد كله ليته، بخربوا الارض مشان ما تزرعش فيها، مشان تشرد عن المنطقه هذه، مشان تشرد على المنطقه هذه كلها اصلا.
هم بيستفيدوا التخريب، هذول حياتهم اصلا بالتخريب على العرب. الجيش الاسرائيلي هذا، هم الاحتلال الاسرائيلي هذول معتنين دائما دوما هم يخربوا على العرب، بدهمش العرب يتقدموا ويزرعوا ويعيشوا، دائما لازم يضلوا كامتين علينا يخنقونا، يعني ما بدهمش ايانا احنا نعيش.
خسارة غير شكل، يعني انا كلفتني هذه.
So what Israel usually does is that it deliberately floods farm areas that hold crops to feed the besieged Gaza population. Now, if that doesn't do the job, it flies planes that drop herbicide, contaminating plants and livestock. It also uses the so-called buffer zone to empty vast swathes of land. Israeli troops and settlers finish the job by attacking farmers or sabotaging their property and crops. The topic has made headlines around the world. Let's see what the reports say. Khalid Barakat is a Palestinian writer, journalist and activist, and he joins us now. Mr. Barakat, welcome. Why does Israel destroy Palestinian crops, if I can start by asking you?
Israel and the occupation in general have carried a systematic policies to not just occupy Palestinian lands, but also destroy Palestinian crops and making the lives of Palestinian farmers particularly very difficult, because the idea is to push Palestinians into abandoning their land and create a situation of fear for Palestinian farmers to even, take care of their own land, and particularly the olive trees and the, Palestinian farms. And this has been going on since day one of occupation. The final goal that Israel wished to see is to evacuate Palestinians, particularly from the West Bank, in a transfer policy where Palestinian farmers become a reserve kind of workers for Israeli economy. They can use them whenever they want to, but also to make it easy for Israel to later on confiscate these lands under the so many laws that Israel come up with, regularly. And one of those laws is to say that, well, this land hasn't been, used, so therefore we are going to occupy, annex this land or become part of some kind of settlement or a settler use or a security use. So there are so many objectives of why Israel destroyed Palestinian crops.
Right, just staying on that note, what's the end game here? What is Israel's long-term aim in, targeting Palestinian livestock and the Palestinian crops?
Well, the idea is to cripple the Palestinian people economy, is to make sure that Israel wants to make sure that Palestinians cannot lean on anything that they can produce, whether in terms of farming or even industry. We have to remember that the very first law that Israel has issued after the occupation of 1967 is that Palestinians' exports and imports have to be validated by the what they call the civil administration, or basically the Israeli occupation, which means that they want to have a full control of Palestinian economy in general. The reason they destroy this large, crops and also destroying Palestinian product is it's a collective punishment to the Palestinian farmers, and at the same time it is used in order to later on be exploited, either to buy it on cheap prices by forcing Palestinian farmers to sell, or to use it in terms of making Palestinian lives very difficult, especially farmers. Because notice that this is the only sector that does not depend on Israel on anything. Palestinians who farm their land and use their land and sell their products to a Palestinian market mostly. So that's really the target, is punishing Palestinians and crippling Palestinian economy.
A very, very interesting analysis there. Journalist and activist Khalid Barakat, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Palestine Files. Now, dear viewers, we're going to take a short break and be right back with the rest of the show. See you in a moment.
A Palestinian rights group has accused the Israeli occupation of exploiting the coronavirus crisis to destroy Palestinian crops. The Al-Mizan Center for Human Rights has called on Tel Aviv to halt spraying herbicide during the pandemic. Documents by the group reveal that Tel Aviv's spraying of chemicals in January damaged crops at least 600 meters from the so-called buffer zone. Al-Mizan says the total area of damage surpassed 280 hectares and at least 350 Palestinian farmers sustained financial losses. Collectively, this exceeded $1 million. According to the Palestinian Agriculture Ministry, Israeli pesticides damaged more than 3,400 acres of agricultural land in Gaza from 2014 to 2018. Meanwhile, residents in the occupied West Bank also suffer from Israeli settlers who destroy vast amounts of Palestinian olive trees. For years, settler vandalism has been a reality for the villagers. However, such attacks have increased since the so-called deal of the century was announced. Critics say this gave the green light for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the settlers to do what they please.
Time to bring in our second and final guest of this episode of Palestine Files. Jetta Subasic is an activist and political commentator. Welcome. Is this type of aggression acceptable under international law or even during warfare?
This type of aggression is unacceptable under any form of international law and under any type of wartime. It is not just a violation of human rights, it is also a violation of animal rights. And there is no international law that will render this type of treatment towards livestock or crops acceptable. It's completely unacceptable.
Right. And do you think the Israeli occupation is trying to get rid of the Palestinian population by targeting their crops?
Israel is most certainly trying to get rid of the Palestinian population by targeting their crops. There is no reason why any occupying entity should be targeting another population's crops. It is completely unacceptable and is a human rights violation.
How can the Palestinians retaliate here?
The Palestinians have very few options in retaliating, and the biggest way that they can retaliate is in the way that they have always retaliated throughout all of these years of the illegal occupation, and that is through Palestinian resistance. And my heart goes out with the Palestinian people because many of them do not have the means to properly defend themselves, to properly defend their homes and their lands and their crops. So Palestinian resistance is the way forward.
So what about the international community? What's their role in all this?
The international community can also partake in their own resistance, in their Palestinian resistance, in their resistance for standing up for humanity, participate in BDS, boycott, divest, sanctions, help Palestinian farmers, help them by donating to them, help them by donating so that they can grow more olive trees. There are a lot of programs and a lot of charities that can be looked up online that help with this type of thing. And people all over the world can also contact their leaders, their politicians, and demand that their governments stop funding the IDF. Those are a few things that the international community can help with.
Ms. Subasic, thank you very much indeed for joining this episode of Palestine Files. Now, our team sat down with Mohammed Al-Bakri. He's the Director General of the Union for Agricultural Work Committees in the besieged Gaza Strip. An important figure, so it's important we hear what he has to say.
اولا يعني
القطاع الزراعي في قطاع غزة يعاني من مشاكل كثيرة وأهمها الاحتلال. الاحتلال يسعى دائما إلى عدم استقرار الأمن الغذائي في قطاع غزة، وعدم السماح للفلسطينيين القاطنين في قطاع غزة من امتلاك مصادر الغذاء حتى يستنى له السيطرة على قطاع غزة، وذلك مؤشر من ممارساته العملية اليومية في انتهاك الحقوق الفلسطينية في امتلاك مصادر الغذاء، إن كان من مياه أو إن كان من مزروعات أو إن كان من أراضي أو مساحات أراضي، إن كان في الARA اللي هي الحدودية أو إن كان في البحر عرض البحر. أيضا يعني يقوم دائما بالاعتداء بالتدمير خلال الحروب السابقة التي مرت خلال عام الألفينات والحروب، دمر مساحات كثيرة من الأراضي الزراعية والبنية التحتية، إلا أن مزارعين وعادونا، وهذا يهدد الأمن الغذائي الفلسطيني في قطاع غزة في ظل الظروف الراهنة التي ينظر العالم جميعا إلى مواجهة خطر أكبر يهدد الكون، وهو خطر فيروس كورونا. إلا أن الاحتلال لا يتعامل بهذه الإنسانية أو بهذا المنهج الدولي إطلاقا، حيث يقوم في الفترة اللي يجب أن يكون هناك في إنسانية وفي هناك تأمين الأمن الغذائي للمجتمعات الدولية، يقوم بتدمير البنية التحتية ويقوم برش المبيدات الزراعية على الأراضي الزراعية في قطاع غزة وخصوصا شرق قطاع غزة. أولا يعني رفعنا تقارير، كتبنا تقارير حول هذا الاعتداء اللي هو فتح المياه شرق قطاع غزة، وأيضا رش المبيدات وإطلاق النار اليومي على الصيادين في عرض البحر، ورفعناها للمنظمات والمعلومات المنظمات الحقوقية الدولية. هذا دور المنظمات الحقوقية الدولية بالتواصل مع منظمات دولية يعني في حقوقية دولية حتى يعني يقوموا بتقديم شكاوي ضد الاحتلال. يعني أنا يعني من زمن بعيد يعني نقوم دائما بتقديم شكاوي، لكن المجتمع الدولي إسرائيل تضرب بعرض الحائط كل القيم الإنسانية والقوانين الدولية، والتي أسدها القوانين خاصة القانون الإنساني الذي يحفظ حقوق الإنسان والذي يدافع عن حقوق الإنسان. عندما تصل إلى القضية إلى الشعب الفلسطيني، نحن هناك يعني نجد أن المجتمع الدولي يطاطع على الاحتلال ويعني لا يتعامل بجدية حول هذا الموضوع. ولكن يعني نحن مستمرون في عملية زراعية ومستمرون في الصمود لشعبنا، مستمدون في الصمود لشعبنا، يعني بالنسبة مستمرون في أن نسعى إلى تعزيز صمود هؤلاء المزارعين في توفير الإمكانيات ومقومات الصمود إن كان في الضفة الغربية أو قطاع غزة، لأنه نعي تماما بأن سيطرة الفلسطينيين على مواردهم الغذائية، وهذا يعزز السيطرة على الأراضي والحياة على هذه الأرض، والاحتلال لا يرغب في أن يكون الشعب الفلسطيني موجود على هذه الأرض.
You may not hear about this on the news all the time. That's why we're raising it here. But it's a very concerning issue for the Palestinians. The targeting of their farmland, their livestock, their livelihoods, the knock-on effect it has on a population that depends on agriculture to survive. Especially in the besieged Gaza Strip, especially in the Gaza Strip, which is under Israeli blockade by land, by air and by sea. Gaza that can't access the outside world, nor can the outside world access Gaza, the world's largest open-air prison. Thank you for watching this episode of Palestine Files, and see you next time.